Let's move forward and discuss the next clause, which is Clause 3, Terms, Definitions and Abbreviations. This clause of the standard lists out and explains the terms, their definitions and abbreviations. The terms and their definitions are required so that no one can misinterpret it. Joint PII, Personally Identifiable Information Controller. PII or Personally Identifiable Information Controller is that which determines the purposes and means of the processing of PII jointly with one or more other PII controllers. Privacy Information Management System, PIMS. It is Information Security Management System which addresses the protection of privacy as potentially affected by the processing of PII or Personally Identifiable Information. Friends, let us understand the Clause 4, General of the Standard now. Coming to Clause 4.1, that is structure of this document. The Clause 4.1 comprises of the structure of the standard and explains the various clauses under it. The Clause 4.1 states that ISO 27701-2019 is a sector-specific document related to ISO, IEC 27001-2013 and ISO, IEC 27002-2013. The Clause 4.1 specifies that the standard focuses on PIMS specific requirements. Compliance with this document is based on adherence to these requirements and with the requirements in ISO IEC 27001-2013. According to this Clause 4.1, standard extends the requirements of ISO IEC 27001-2013 to take into account the protection of privacy of PII principles as potentially affected by the processing of PII, in addition to information security. The Clause 4.1 says that for a better understanding, implementation, guidance, and other information regarding the requirements is also included in the standard. According to the Clause 4.1, Clause 6 provides PIMS, specific guidance and other information regarding the information security controls in ISO, IEC 27002 and PIMS, specific guidance for an organization acting as either a PII controller or a PII processor. Clause 7 gives additional ISO, IEC 27002 guidance for PII controllers. And Clause 8 gives additional ISO, IEC 27002 guidance for PII processors. The standard also contains annexures ranging from Annexure A to F. As per Clause 4.1, Annexure A of the standard lists the PIMS, specific control objectives and controls for an organization acting as a PII controller, whether it employs a PII processor or not, and whether acting jointly with another PII controller or not. Annexure B lists the PIMS specific control objectives and controls for an organization acting as a PII processor, whether it subcontracts the processing of PII to a separate PII processor or not, and including those processing PII as subcontractors to PII processors. Annexure C of ISO IEC 27701-2019 contains a mapping to ISO IEC 29100. Annexure D of the standard contains a mapping of the controls in this document to the European Union General Data Protection Regulation. Annexure E contains a mapping to ISO IEC 27018 and ISO IEC 29151. And Annexure F explains how ISO IEC 27001 and ISO IEC 27002 are extended to the protection of privacy when processing PII. Coming now to Clause 4.2, Application of ISO IEC 27001-2013 Requirements. Friends, please see Table 1 on the screen. This table gives the location of PIMS specific requirements in this standard in relation to ISO IEC 27001. You can go through this table for more information. Coming to Clause 4.3, Application of ISO IEC 27002-2013 Guidelines. Please refer the Table 2 on screen. This table gives the location of PIMS specific guidance in this document in relation to ISO IEC 27002. Let us discuss the Clause 4.4 Customer. The Clause 4.4 of the standard states that depending on the role of the organization, customer can be understood as either an organization who has a contract with a PII controller, for example, the customer of the PII controller, a PII controller who has a contract with a PII processor, for example, the customer of the PII processor, or a PII processor who has a contract with a subcontractor for PII processing, for example, the customer of the subcontracted PII subprocessor. For more information about our institute and other training programs, you can contact us through email or phone. I sincerely thank you for all your interest and attention. Thanks and best wishes.